Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest HR on the Offensive live stream. It's me, Chris Howard from Lace Partners, back again as always. We love to do a live stream on a Tuesday afternoon, and we love to do a live stream with that fabulous human being that is Debbie Mitchell. Debbie, how you doing? You all right?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm doing jazz hands for some reason.
Jazz hands. That's because you're a fabulous individual.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk about a fabulous topic, or is this a really annoying fad topic today? This idea of quiet cracking. So if you are watching this video for the first time, if you've never heard about quiet cracking, we're going to explain a little bit about that. But actually, we're going to get to the heart as to what it is really. And I do feel like, Debbie, there's tons of quiet something that seems to permeate through, particularly in the HR world. So quiet cracking, just for those people who are not familiar, is essentially this idea that employees are mentally and emotionally deteriorating. And there's a HR director article that was talking about it that we read over the last week here at Lace Towers and thought, do you know what? Let's have a discussion about this, because it's all very well having the buzzword, but what's the reality that sits behind that? And so I'm going to ask Debbie a couple of questions around it. But again, it's this idea that employees are emotionally detaching themselves from their work, potentially as a culture thing, potentially as an individual thing from themselves, potentially as a line manager thing that will hint as to what we'll talk about in a minute. But it almost means that they're going to offer less opinions. They become more withdrawn. If they're a creative person, perhaps they stop suggesting creative ideas. They just do what is the bare minimum. But Debbie, let's park this idea of the buzzword. Can you talk to me about the real issue here?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, but I think that the real fundamental is this is a well-being issue, right? So what we're hearing about in quiet cracking is that your previously high-performing, or maybe you're still high-performing employees are starting to crack, but behind the scenes. And so the big risk here is that A, you don't notice, that B, they become unwell. And then there's obviously some kind of corporate, I suppose, or business impacts to that as well, which is around productivity, around, performance of the organization, the individual, the team, the function, etc., and the knock-on effects that might have. But at the heart of it is, what do we see about that person? What's the impact that we're seeing on them? And as you described, we're seeing sort of a fairly gradual, hidden emotional response to a number of different factors. We'll come to those in a minute, that can stay quite invisible and silent. So it might be hard to notice this quiet cracking because it is happening behind the scenes. And that's a bit the challenge for us, is how do we uncover it?
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
I was going to talk a bit about why we think it might be happening. So yeah, go for it. I think there's a few things and different things that we're reading about as well and hearing about. You mentioned kind of culture, and I think that sort of, to pick another buzzword, the kind of toxic work environment is one key thing. So what is the kind of workplace that you're in, and how's that kind of feeling for you? Is it a good fit? Is it not? And what is that culture kind of requiring of you in order to be successful, or to get through a day, or to deliver sort of the core parts of your role? I think workload, which might be related to the culture, but workload is a key thing. What is the kind of level of workload that you've got versus the number of hours in your day? And, many people are very happy to kind of extend the working day a little, but when that becomes unmanageable or intolerable, or actually all you're doing is kind of chasing your tail all the time, it doesn't matter how many hours you work in a day, that's when it can become incredibly stressful. I think there are then a couple of other factors. One is, are you doing all of this and it's not being recognized or valued? You're not being told that you're doing a great job. You're not being supported through your development. You're not being given the help you need to manage the heavy workload or the big responsibilities that you have. And sort of surrounding all of this, for me, you touched on it earlier, is that people management capability. So what is the role of your line manager in supporting you, and what are they doing? When we read the article in HR Director, the focus on that article was a bit around sort of technology and AI. And of course, there is all that stuff that can really help. So with the tech, how can you simplify jobs? How can you automate some of the mundane tasks so that people can feel like they're really adding more value? They have a sense of purpose. With the AI stuff, how can you, speed up some of those more administrative tasks, for example? But also from an HR technology side, how can you use AI and technology to really think about what's the sentiment in your organization and what trends are you picking up? So regular pulse surveys and that kind of stuff. AI can also do sentiment analysis to sort of pick up what's going on in email, Teams type sort of communication. So that's all helpful. But all of that is kind of, almost a step removed from the employees. It's all really important. I don't want to, negate that, but it's a step removed from the employee. And if we go back to the step that's right in front of the employee, it is that line manager. So what is the role? And what we tend to see is that those managers where people are quite cracking around them, it could be that they're sort of lacking the capability or sometimes the capacity. They might be quite cracking themselves to really be able to influence their team members, their individuals. So we identify a few things. I mean, there's lots of things. I always break it down to a couple of really simple principles in line management, and they're not rocket science. The first one is to kind of notice what's going on around you. So if you can see that somebody's just slammed a phone down on a customer, or that somebody's really quiet in a meeting when they weren't usually, really start to notice those things. Look around your team, see what is happening. What are the interactions like? Look at some of the outputs and the deliverables, and are they coming in time? Are they coming in the normal type of quality that you might expect, or are you starting to see a difference? So there's lots of factors we can look at where we can just say, okay, I'm starting to notice something different. So that's step one. But step two is, and then do something with what you've noticed. So the noticing is one thing, but then you might ask a few questions. You might talk to your employee about, what's happening. I've seen this, I've noticed something, how are things for you? How's your workload? Just ask some really general open questions to start the conversation, because if nothing else, that tells me that you care about what's going on in my work right now. And so I might not want to open up just yet, but I might start to think that maybe I could at some point. So really starting to ask those good quality open questions. And one of the questions I love, by the way, I've advocated this for years, is, as your line manager, am I doing anything that's getting in the way? So am I blocking you? Am I causing you more headaches? Do I need to connect you with somebody else? Tell me what I can do to help you to make your work easier, better, more efficient, more simple, etc. And sometimes there are things. Stop micromanaging me is a very common example that we hear. Get off my back and let me get on with the task. So that kind of, those really good quality questions are important. But so notice and then ask the questions. And then, of course, the last one is to listen to the answers that you're hearing. And perhaps most importantly, do something with those responses. So, you can ask questions. You can ask, what can I do to get off your back, or how can I help you? But if actually you're not able to kind of do something with that, or at least respond to it. So you can't always solve every problem, but you can say, I acknowledge it. I hear it. I can't do anything with that. Where else can I go? How else can I help? What else could we do? So just sort of that real listening thing is a key part of the role. Now, what we tend to find is that all of those things are really simple. They don't require lots of leadership development training. They're sort of fairly natural kind of human skills. I think for me, the role of HR sometimes in that is helping managers to have those conversations where they don't feel confident, in helping them to think about sort of how they coach, in maybe giving them data and information to support. I would say, the other quiet trend I've heard about, sorry, Chris, this is left field and I've not talked about this with you, but I read the other day about quiet support. And this is a quiet trend I can get behind, because the difference then is, you're not referring to the policy, you're not following the strict rules and regulations, but what you're doing is saying, Chris, I'm noticing something. I've asked you a question. I've listened to what you've said, and I think you and I should quietly do something about it, and let's park the policy and the process and the form filling and the, request for whatever, and just deliver quiet support to enable sort of some redress towards that quiet cracking.
I really like that. I really like that, and a positive angle on the quiet something to talk about. So just to wrap up today, really, really interesting stuff there, Debbie, really interesting stuff that we've pointed out. But again, like I said, right at the top of the show, if you park the actual buzzword of quiet cracking that I've got on the screen and focusing, I really liked what you said there, Debbie. There's almost the three things that I took away from that. It's the listen, it's the ask, and then it's the act almost. It's the notice, and then it's the act on that. Three really, really good things to take away. Debbie, thanks for checking in with me and having a quick chat about quiet cracking and also quiet support, which is a new thing that I've learned.
Way forward.
and I certainly love it. I certainly love it. Hopefully you enjoyed this very quick check-in. If you've got any questions around quiet cracking or even quiet support, you want to have a chat with us or Debbie, then please feel free to do so. But from myself, from Debbie, thank you very much. We're going to catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive Live. Bye.
Thank you.